this does give you an advantage if you spend money. If that's strictly your definition of pay to win, then it's pay to win.
Distraction makers.
The Bazaar's been under some fire lately. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I think also kind of talk about maybe the nuances of what really makes something pay to win, free to play.
We're going to dig into the numbers specifically because the numbers don't lie. So we're going to talk about how feasible it is to actually play this game free to play and talk generally about whether or not we think their system is fair.
So to get people caught up that aren't familiar with the Bazaar is a free-to-play auto battler created by Raynad and the team at Tempo. So the game is not a trading card game. It's an auto battler. It's a drafting game. You hop in and you're at ground zero. You start fresh, just like everybody else.
Similar to a deck building game.
Right.
Let's try to bridge the gap.
Sure. For basically the majority of the development, it's been pretty public. Raynad and the team have been big proponents of trying to not make a monetization system that's going to take advantage of players.
Let's go through how the system works. So it is mostly handled through a battle pass system, which means that for $10, you're unlocking the ability to earn additional rewards when you're playing the game. Their battle pass has 25 ranks total. When you spend the $10, you immediately get to unlock rank 1, which is one of the characters named Vanessa. You get to unlock her additional cards, and then you get additional rewards as you play through the battle pass. There's also a free-to-play track on the battle pass, so you get to earn rewards that way too. We'll talk more in detail about what that means when we get to the numbers. And then you'll get all the way to the end of the battle pass at rank 25, and that unlocks the second character's extra cards, Pygmalion. But you have to play through all of those matches and earn your way up to that rank 25.
Alternatively, you can spend $100
to just skip all that and get
everything.
all the cards immediately. And then the additional detail here is that when the battle pass is done, which is a monthly battle pass, the character additional cards become available to unlock as individual purchases. So
Yes.
you don't automatically get them if you just wait a month. You get the ability to unlock them without this battle pass system after a month.
And the individual sets will cost $10 to unlock, as opposed to, so it'd be $20 you'd be spending in total, as opposed to the $10 that you'd be spending for the battle pass.
Alternatively, you can also just use gems to unlock these, which is the 100% free-to-play track, which we will discuss later if that actually works or not. So
Right. So that's assuming if you want to just be free to play, you can still earn gems, which is their like in-game converted currency, but there's ways of obtaining that by playing for free, and you don't have to spend money on it.
first, let's explain what these card unlocks are, because I think this is one of the major points of contention is what you are actually unlocking and its impact on the game itself that you get by spending money.
So the inclusion of separate cards in that is very unique. I don't know any other auto battler that has gone and tried to include through a separate system to include new cards that are unique to your draft pool that is not going to go and be included in other people's draft pools if they've not purchased them before.
Right. So we're talking about asymmetric pools of cards based on if you didn't pay for them or if you did pay for them.
And most of the time in these types of games, there's a shared draft pool. There's usually, somewhere around 6 to 8 players, something like that. And you're all sharing these sort of unique collectible objects. And if one player grabs one, it's now out of the pool. But now the Bazaar doesn't work that way.
Yeah, they even have like asynchronous matchmaking, which means that when you go to like play against another player, you're not actually playing against them in real time. You're playing against a snapshot of their deck at that rank, basically. So you as a free-to-play player are completely able to just run into other people that have paid for the game. There's not like separate pools of players that are playing against each other. You are up against someone who has additional cards that you do not have since they paid for them. And the main criticism here is that some of these cards are quite powerful. The player base immediately was keying in on some of these as being quite powerful cards and basically saying that, okay, well, if you have paid for this, you have an additional opportunity here to get a very powerful build through the variance of the game. However, let's stipulate this a little bit, because one of the things that I think, Raynad and team over at Tempo have I wish they were a little bit more transparent with the way they're viewing this, because really Raynad's comments have mostly been, well, we know what we're doing, trust us, We know we're on the right path. Give it time. Which is like, I get the like.
I don't even know if you said that, but sure.
I maybe even being generous.
I think you're giving him a little more credit.
I'm being maybe generous, but what I'm saying, basically, like, this is what we're doing. Shut up. But
right.
Okay,
that's a little closer.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what might be happening here, systems wise, that may or may not make this pay to win.
Right. So yeah, I think that's probably the first thing to address is figuring out, is this actually pay to win or not pay to win? And I think that on the surface, it's very easy to just evaluate this as completely strictly play to win, 100%, because some players are paying money and getting cards that the community is evaluating as being very potentially powerful cards, and they're going to have access to it that other players do not have access to. Normally, the card pool has, I don't know, maybe 100 cards, at least 50 plus cards, something like that. There's different sorts of vendors that narrow it down into medium, small, different types, etc. So there's ways of sort of working around the variance that it allows you to work around. But we don't actually know if that's sort of true randomness or not. It clearly isn't to a certain degree because there's a scaling of items. There are some items you won't run into early in the game versus later in the game. But other auto battlers, what they'll do is they will kind of lean the chances of you running into certain card types if they know it might benefit your particular build.
The point of distinction here between whether or not this is actually just pay to win is that when you purchase these additional cards, it's giving you a set of cards. It's not just giving you these one or two really powerful cards. It's giving you even more additional items to sort of dilute your item pool. And I think this is kind of reading between the lines a bit and saying, okay, well, this is how the system functions. So theoretically, by purchasing this, you are diluting your pool to the point where, okay, well, let's say, generally speaking, you'd have a 30% chance to get a broken build in the game. Well, if I buy these additional cards and put them in, well, now have I just split, like now there's 2 broken builds I can get, but have I split that percentage just in half? So now there's a 15% chance I get that broken build and a 15% chance I get the original broken build. It's still 30%. It doesn't matter which one I get, right? Or one that probably is not the case. It doesn't seem like enough items being added to the pool to dilute it enough to do that.
10 cards that get added per set. Right. And so if 1 or 2 of those are really good, then I think it's actually being diluted more than probably it would be beneficial. But
right. There's a trap there, right? Which is, first of all, we need to know how many cards are in the pool. I don't know. We don't know that number. So if you just add an additional 10 cards and 2 of those cards are really strong, that's not diluting the pool enough to make it so that it's still the same amount of chance that you would get a broken build or not. So the other part of this that you run into is, like, let's say it was, the same odds. Now you're in a situation where someone has paid for something additional in the game and they're not like getting the full benefit of the thing they paid for, I guess. I don't know. The monetization here, generally speaking, is problematic in several different ways. But one of them is this exact problem that we're talking about, where it's like, okay, well, if you want to keep the variance the same for both free-to-play and paid players to make it not play to win, you are basically saying it doesn't matter if you buy this or not. You're still going to win the same amount, right? Which you get more variance. You get different builds that you can do.
There's a possibility that the diluting of the pool, of the draft pool, might balance out the potentially extra powerful cards that you are going to be receiving. But we don't know that. And that's also sort of a second level understanding of the game that most average players are probably not going to be considering.
It's also not, it's not the perceived experience either.
Right. And so as opposed to, something closer to like a TCG model, which is very strictly pay to win. There's still a lot of skill, but yeah, if you don't have the best cards to build your deck, then you're going to be probably losing significantly more than other players. But it's very clear to players when they are investing in something that is the system they're entering into. And this is so muddied that players, it seems like, are maybe led to believe that, yes, this is pay to win. If you get this, you might be winning because now you can have these cards in your pool. But actually, it balances itself out, but it's not very clear. And most people, when they're entering into something like this, want to know, okay, is this actually going to be beneficial to me, or is this not going to be beneficial to me? And that's sort of the divide between anything that's going to be in the game system versus cosmetics.
And also, like, why would I spend money on this if it's not beneficial to me?
Right,
That's
yeah.
the
And once they realize
proposition.
that, it's like, oh, do I ever even get these?
Why would I
then?
even bother buying it? Right. So to me, I'm just sitting here going, well, having this just be a non-factor seems impossible, because then people just, why would you buy it, right? And other than, oh, these items look different, right? So, which just then would be better served as just cosmetics, right? I guess you're sort of like, the perception is that they're more than just cosmetic. So the other part of why I think, again, it could be that the numbers of this all work out fine.
It could be you get a
We
set
don't know.
and it's still perfectly balanced.
Right, and they might be tweaking those numbers behind the scenes, adding 10 cards to a pool. If there's 50 to 100 cards in that pool, adding 10 more cards is not going to dilute it enough, if not, whatever, but you'd have to, but that's okay. Like, that math doesn't math, but it could be that behind the scenes they're tweaking this so that it does end up similar. Whatever. That's like, that is like not.
We can only speculate.
We can only speculate, and also it's frustrating that they would be tweaking things in that way potentially, if that's what they're doing. We don't know. So the problem then becomes the perception of players. As humans, we are prone to observing streaks and thinking that it's like strokes of luck, right? So luck is non-existent. If you flip a coin, it's a 50-50 chance. But you could flip the coin heads 50 times in a row. Like, that's a possibility. That's a thing that is possible, right? So in this environment in which variance and randomness is high, right, in terms of when I see these items, my perception is that if I see this item that I perceive as pay to win, and then I lose to it, I'm going to immediately think, well, that person is pay to win. Because I don't have that item. They do. They beat me. Therefore, it's unfair.
This is especially going to be prevalent early on in a new meta, right? Because a lot of players are going to want to deliberately grab this item, even if they don't know if it's good or not.
Right. Right. Or even you're talking about the reverse, where if I did pay for this item, now I'm thinking, well, I should win more. I paid for it. I'm more likely to observe this as being a positive for me because I have spent money on it. I have an investment here. I'm looking for that positive feedback that I did the right thing. So I think even if the numbers all math out, which we're pretty sure they don't really, to be completely fair, like, you do want at least some amount of favor in the person that spent the money. Otherwise, why would they spend the money? But then on top of that, you have this perception problem. If you're claiming that this isn't pay to win, but somebody paid for items that somebody lost to, whether or not the numbers math out doesn't fix the perception problem.
So you want to make sure that players are feeling satisfied when they're investing in your game, right? Either it's going to be a direct pay-to-win thing where it's like, yeah, I want to pay money so I can be more powerful, or I want to pay money because I want to experience something that other people aren't experiencing. And that might be a suboptimal play that's really exciting to play, but ultimately is maybe not like tournament viable or something. So there's this card in Vanessa's Mysteries of the Deep pack called Slumbering Primordial. It has a 30-second timer. In context, most items range anywhere from 3 seconds on the low end to like 10 seconds on the high end.
Okay, so this is a really long cooldown timer.
Prior to this, I think the longest cooldown timer maybe was 20 seconds. There might have been a 30-second
Isn't that
one.
like the boulder? What's the boulder?
Yeah, the boulder I think is 20
like 20
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is effectively another boulder.
It's another boulder. It only deals 75 damage, which is not a lot. Especially at like the late game that you'd want this to be used at. And when you poison, freeze, or burn, charge the item 1 second, and it gains 75 damage for the fight. Charging it means it's going to be cast 1 second faster.
So you're reducing the cooldown.
You're reducing the cooldown over time every time you poison, freeze, or burn something, and it's adding up damage. So it's stacking a ton of damage, and it's going to be cast a lot sooner the more you're, stacking all these different poisons, freezes, and burns. It's not exactly a horribly unique effect as far as the cards go, but I could definitely see someone seeing this card and going, whoa, okay, 30-second timer, that sounds crazy. Whoa, it's going to stack all this damage, that sounds crazy. The art is really cool. The narrative is kind of neat. That someone might look at this as sort of a Timmy card and be like, I know that card might not be good, but I really want to try and make a build with that card.
Timmy is in casual player.
Yes, Timmy is in casual player. Sorry, in
Magic
Magic
Land.
Brain. So, I think that is okay, right? Offering this sort of maybe an exciting alternative to high-end play for players. I could see players potentially wanting to invest money into trying something new like that. The majority of the narrative right now is just, either these packs aren't good or these packs are busted because of these cards or something.
I think that, in terms of this being a fair monetization model, the other thing that we need to look at is, can you still play the game 100% free to play? Like, is it feasible to earn these rewards without spending any money? And what does that experience look like compared to the paid model?
So right off the bat, I think we should probably just say this right off the bat. There is no way within the first, I think, 30 days of any pass being out that you can play your way into earning either of these packs.
Right. So out of the gate, you are waiting 30 days compared to people who have paid.
I believe it's 30 days. It's whenever a pass ends.
Whenever the battle pass ends.
Right.
So, okay.
So beyond that, the free-to-play pass, in our research, some of these numbers could be a little skewed. You get 45 free tickets to enter into ranked. When you enter into ranked, if you win 4 games in ranked, you get a chest. Chests will give you cosmetics, but it will also give you gems. More gems that you can then go and enter into ranked or use to purchase other things.
And a chest always gives you some amount of gems?
Yes.
Okay.
I think minimum 35, at most 60.
So gems are just the in-game currency. If you spend money on in-game currency, it's basically 1 cent per gem, right? You spend $1, you get 100 gems.
Right.
Okay.
So 4 wins, you get 1 chest. 7 wins, you get 2 chests. 10 wins, you get 3 chests. Okay. So on average, anywhere from 35 to 60, I think the average gem amount that you might get is like somewhere around 42, 43. The range is anywhere from 35 to 60 that you're going to be receiving gems. So at the high end, you might get 180 gems if you win 10 times every single time. On the low end, let's say you win 1 time, you might get 60 gems. Again, like that's like high end if you get 4 wins.
On average, you're going to get 43 gems per chest. And then the average number of chests that you'll get per ticket is roughly 1.5, like maybe
We're not
less.
Positive.
Right? It depends on your skill, right? But it also depends on variance, right? There's a lot of variance in this game. So we're going to go and say there's a possibility to get 3 chests. We're just gonna take the average, which is 1.5, and say, okay, on average, players will get 1.5 chests per run. If that's the case, you'll earn about 2,900 to 3,000 gems per the 45 tickets that you get for free.
You have to play 45 games with your free tickets without investing any other gems into any other ranked or whatever. And yeah, you'll get around 2,900 to 3,000.
Somewhere in there, plus or minus. In order to unlock the additional cards, after you've waited the month, it's 1,000 gems per card unlock card set to unlock. So Vanessa's card set, which is 10 cards, would cost you 1,000 gems. Pygmalion's would cost you another 1,000 gems. So theoretically, you can play completely free to play, still unlock these cards, but you will always be a month behind anyone who's paying.
You will technically end with 1,000 extra gems. That will, you'll be able to spend on future characters or future packs or whatever in upcoming months. However, again, kind of loose math, but going off my personal anecdotal games, I'm going to say average game time is anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. I've had some go longer, some go shorter. So let's say about 35 minutes or so per game. You're looking at about 26 hours or so of game time for you per month.
Yeah,
for
to do the 45 games.
Right,
yeah.
to do the 45 games.
I don't know what that means to you specifically, but take that as you will. It is possible, but you're going to be playing this game a lot. Which,
and again, you're playing with not the latest stuff.
Right.
You're playing against other people always having the latest stuff.
And that's the other point, right? Is that, okay, that might reduce your win percentage, right? We're talking about, well, you got to win enough to get 1.5 chests per run. Right. Whether or not you can do that is also dependent upon how many people you're going up against who have purchased this battle pass. That's going to reduce potentially your average amount of wins. Right. So is it possible? Yes. Is it practical? Not really, but that's kind of the point of these systems, right? They want to put you in a position where you do want to spend some amount of money to help support the game. I don't know. It feels a little weird. I feel like maybe just a more direct approach would just be better, but I don't know, right? I haven't experimented specifically with this type of monetization model. I have my own opinions about it, but it's hard to say without that firsthand knowledge what would be the right course of action here. I think what we can kind of definitively say here is that this does give you an advantage if you spend money.
Right.
And if that's strictly your definition of pay to win, then it's pay to win.
Right. And I think that it kind of always has to give you an advantage if this is the system they stick with. I think that there's been some content creators, there's been some people in the community that have sort of speculated saying like, well, it might not be pay to win because of this or that, or the diluting of the draft pool and stuff like that. The problem though is like, who's going to buy the pack, right? So if it's variety of gameplay or pay to win, if the variety of gameplay is not enough variety, which it's 10 cards, you might not even run into any of those cards in your run. Maybe. So instead, if it's pay to win, if it's too pay to win, then that means that they're basically going to have to nerf it because it's going to put so many players at such a high advantage that the meta is essentially only dominated by people that have paid the $10+ or whatever to unlock the newest things.
Okay, so the other thing they could do to make this more fair is decouple earning the currency from winning, right? Because you're being put in the same card pool as people who are paying, thus making you less likely to win. That is directly putting you at odds with being able to sustainably play this free to play, right? Because if you win less, you end up with less gems, making it less likely that you can unlock this stuff at the end of the month.
I think they've...
So if instead it was just you earn gems as you play, whether win or lose, that might be more fair.
They've kind of done this a little bit already with some of the daily quests because the daily quests, it'll get you experience that unlocks the battle pass. The battle pass has some chests that will give you gems, but it's not going to be a ton of gems.
Okay, so there's a few here that we're not accounting for.
Yeah,
but.
So you'll get a few extra gems, so it's going to be a little more than 3,000, but
yeah. But it's only, how many chests are in the battle pass, do we know?
I think it's like 2 or 3.
Okay,
I don't know. Yeah, it's not a lot.
Like 80 more gems or something.
Yeah.
That's not
enough.
It's not 1,000. Like, yeah. Okay, so what do we think here in terms of one? I think one of the biggest changes that would be helpful is to remove the winning incentive to get the gems, but that's it's up to their monetization policies, I suppose. But I don't know what kind of takeaways do we have here?
I mean, really, like you said in the beginning, the math doesn't lie. So if looking at the math is fine. It seems...
Caveat.
Sure.
With digital games.
Right.
We don't know the math. Could be lying.
The math is always... yeah, that is a problem, is that either players are receiving these new cards that they just got more often, or they're receiving them less often. No matter what, it's not fair to someone playing the game. But so let's assume in good faith, whatever, all the math, if it is skewed, it's skewed in the way that is probably going to, for whatever reason, create a healthier state of the game. If it seems, fair, quote unquote fair, and it's all balanced, then their biggest issue is just how it was presented. And in fact, I think there's a lot of monetization systems that do lean in a sort of pay-to-win direction. We see this all the time with card games. But there's certain ways that people will view the monetization systems based off of how the company has presented it and how they've responded to player backlash and how the players are perceiving it. And really, I think that that's why most of these players are upset, is that it's not necessarily that this is the monetization system that was implemented. It's that they feel blindsided and then a little bit abandoned by some of the company's reactions and responses.
Well, when you have somebody who is being perceived as part of the community, who then is perceived to have sort of turned their back on that community to focus on monetization policies that they had criticized previously, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Like, you're sort of like, hey, I'm here as part of this community, help me build this game, thanks, now I'm going to make money on it. Like, which, don't get me wrong, like, you should be able to make money.
Be able to make money, yeah.
But do so in a way that is, both beneficial to you and your players theoretically, right? Like, how do we give players the opportunity to spend money on this game in a way that does not necessarily affect the gameplay? It's tough. We've talked previously about why Magic is monetized the way that it is and how Magic's monetization system helps extend the length of metagames because players it takes them time to acquire the cards. In this case, you're given the cards immediately and the game has systems in place that make it so that inconsistency is just always there because that's the nature of the game. It's a drafting game. So you don't really need to do that here in terms of like booster packs, theoretically. But the flip side of that is there's no opportunity for a player to sort of get lucky and unlock these things through randomness, right? Through winning them in a booster, in a loot box or something, right? Which I think, I'm not saying loot boxes are better necessarily, but what I am saying is you have eliminated any path towards acquiring these besides just strictly like through the free-to-play model, besides either paying the money or grinding out 45 games and getting to at least 2,000 gems to then pay to unlock these things after the battle pass has ended in a month or so.
I'll say that it's definitely tough to see what are the actual benefits of this system versus something a little bit more straightforward. And are there even benefits in having unlocks in this way? And what's funny is that the community perception overall seemed perfectly fine with the concept of heroes and characters being something that you pay for eventually and unlock. And
that seems wild.
Well, they
okay.
had this exact same this thing we're talking about with these packs. It could potentially happen with characters. It's still pay to win. A character could be overtuned, could be imbalanced, be stronger.
This is the path most free-to-play games take, is that a new character comes out, they're overtuned, people pay for them, they play them for a while they're broken, and then inevitably they have to nerf them before the next character comes out, and we repeat the cycle.
Right. And like, I think it shows how strongly the community felt about the game, that they were on board for that type of a system. It meant that they had a lot of trust, a lot of faith with the developers, and they were willing to accept that if that's what it takes for this game to keep going and to be monetized, we'll accept that because we're really enjoying the game. And so to sort of have this player backlash come up and have this sort of like you guys don't get it sort of attitude about it is it's unfortunate because you have a lot of players that are very dedicated to this game and very passionate about it and very excited for the future. And I worry that as much as I think these packs probably made a lot of money. A lot of players probably bought these packs and it probably made Tempo a lot of money in the short term. But I think in a lot of these cases, when it comes to a lot of these, especially smaller companies that are closer to maybe AA status, I think it's more about the marathon than trying to race to reaching any sort of next, milestone of finances, right?
Right.
And I think
we don't know what their business model looks like. We don't know if they have investors they need to pay back. We don't know what their circumstances are. So it's easy to sit here and say, yeah, they should take the long term view on this. But if they've got investors breathing down their neck, what are you going to do, right? That's a decision that you should make before you made the game, right? Now you're beholden potentially to someone who does not have the game's best interest in mind. So that's a whole nother conversation, I think. Yeah, I mean, with the character thing, there might be a way that they could have, given some amount of stuff for free on top of charging for these other characters so that players who are 100% free to play are still getting some kind of new content. I think that's another kind of problem with this mentality that they've done here, is that you're not getting really any new content for free to play until you've really earned it, right? 45 games plus waiting a month. So I do wonder if that's a big part of this too, is that, here's new content. You don't get anything unless you pay for something.
Yeah. And I think that, I'm not sure, but the games that immediately come to mind, I think most of them that use a battle pass model, usually there's some sort of a free thing, right, as a lead that gets people into the game for that season. And then once they're there and playing with the new toy, they might participate in the battle pass.
And there are free cosmetics. That's the thing, that there's some skins and things for the heroes, but there's no actual new cards, I don't think, for free.
No, nothing for the battle pass. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Normally a lot of these games will have like a free battle pass track that you get some cosmetics.
Yeah.
But this is just tickets. If you enjoyed listening to us talk about the Bazaar, please feel free to give us a little like and a subscribe, maybe a comment down below. Also, feel free to join our Discord. You can find a link to that in the description down below.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye. feel like this is a me episode.
I guess. I don't know. What do you mean?
You don't really play the Bazaar.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No.
And I showed you and Tyler the other day. I clocked a good solid over 100 hours in it. Maybe 120.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, bragging, huh?
So, is that a brag? From your perspective, is that a brag?